Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, episode number 245, presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the 65-step Marshall Plan process. For those of you who are new to the show, I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I want to welcome you. And with me today is a very special guest, Dr. Phil Finemore, PT, DPT, owner of WorkFit Maine Mobile Physical Therapy. Welcome to the podcast, Phil.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much for having me. I've been a long-time listener, so I appreciate the opportunity to come on and chat with you.
Well, yes, and you have your own podcast, so we'll be talking about that as well.
Yeah.
Dr. Phil Finemore received his Bachelor's of Science in Kinesiology in 2013 and his Doctor of Physical Therapy in 2015. Dr. Phil has spent the last 8 years treating a variety of neurological and musculoskeletal conditions in outpatient orthopedic clinics in southern Maine. This experience has proven time and time again that way too many people are being passed around from provider to provider, spending more time in pain and less time living the abundant life that they worked so hard to achieve. That has become Dr. Phil's goal: to help busy Maine professionals, executives, and business owners improve physical performance to live a happy, healthy, and wealthy life with their loved ones. And it just so happens that I am one of his patients, and I am kind of like his targeted avatar. We'll talk about that too. Like, he used some pretty good techniques to find Nancy Marshall, and we've been working together for 3 years now. Dr. Phil does not work for insurance companies. He works with his clients, getting them the results that lead to more abundance in every aspect of their lives. His mission is to make sure the dreams and aspirations of each of his clients aren't derailed by preventable injury and pain. Dr. Phil became a physical therapist to help people, and that is his number one goal at WorkFit Me. Originally from Oakland, Maine, which is right next to Waterville, where I went to college for both undergraduate and graduate, Dr. Phil is an avid outdoorsman and enjoys playing guitar in his spare time. And we actually are in this studio here where there's all kinds of instruments. We talked about having a little concert afterward. He and his wife, Mallory, welcomed their first child, Brielle, in May of 2019, and another daughter, Sawyer, in September of 2022. So she's coming up on her first birthday.
Almost there. I know. Hard to believe. Hard to believe.
So tell us about your career so far and how you got into it in the first place.
Yeah. So like most physical therapists, I always say this: if you put 100 of us in a room, probably 90 of us would say we had physical therapy at some point in our adolescence, whether it's high school sports injuries or we had something going on developmentally that required some PT growing up or something like that. So that was my case. I thought about maybe being an athletic trainer, but had a great athletic trainer at my high school who actually encouraged me to look into physical therapy as well. Didn't discourage athletic training, but thought that could be another possible career choice, on a similar trajectory. And just sort of through some research and some job shadowing and my own experience, sort of fell in love with how powerful that knowledge can be for people, and realizing that more people need it than realized that they need it. It's a pretty underutilized specialty of healthcare. So just kind of fell in love with it in high school and kind of knew that was going to be felt very passionately that would be my career path moving through college.
Yeah. And then you started your own practice in what month or what year?
Yeah, so I worked for a couple different clinics around Southern Maine for about 5 years, and then was furloughed in 2020, like many other people were, and actually started the practice as a workplace injury prevention consulting practice. I saw the whole work from home shift happening and knew that people are going to be dealing with what I've termed as schneck pain.
Oh,
So
yeah.
from going from a computer setup at the office to a laptop on the recliner or the kitchen island at home, and was doing that, and it sort of naturally turned into this mobile physical therapy model over the course of that summer, basically
Right.
the summer of 2020, and have just been leaning into that ever since.
So you essentially go into people's homes and treat them there.
Yeah, homes, their offices. I've met people. Actually, when we first started working together, we were meeting at a park
Yeah.
that had a covered space in case we had to get out of the elements. But I've met people, gotten pretty creative with that, and we also have some gyms and other businesses in the area that we work with that are gracious enough to let us kind of crash their party from time to time. So if it's actually more convenient to meet people somewhere else, we do that. We do that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, fully mobile and make it as convenient as possible.
I had forgotten about that. There's a gazebo up on the Eastern Prom in Portland.
Yeah.
Where we're in it's a pretty scenic place to me. We should consider doing that again.
Yes, we should. Yeah, definitely.
So it was about 3 years ago that I received an ad or a message from Dr. Phil on LinkedIn. And he did his homework as far as targeting, because I'm somebody who has had numerous ski injuries over the years, including ACL and MCL on both. That's anterior cruciate and medial collateral ligaments on both legs.
Yeah,
I know. I've got the scars to prove it.
Yeah.
So that would have been like in the mid 80s, and then I had those treated, but of course, sometimes some pain and swelling and other things linger, and then 2017, I did have a total knee replacement. But of course, being a Taurus and being stubborn and bullheaded, I don't want to quit skiing. And I also enjoy riding my bike. As many of you know, I did the trek across Maine, albeit not the whole thing, but I did the trek last weekend. So I'm somebody who wants to keep doing the things that I love. And I know that doing those things makes me feel better physically and mentally. So by meeting with Dr. Phil regularly, as I have been, I've been able to do a lot of things, maintain my strength and flexibility, and also get the confidence too. I think that's a big part of it, is that by going through a lot of the activities and exercises that we do together, it gives me confidence, like, oh, I can do this stuff. I can get down on my hands and knees and lift the weights and do the sorry, it's not the bulldog. It's the
bird dog. Not the bulldog. You can call it the bulldog, I guess. Yeah. Well, no, and to that point, that's really the focus of the practice, which sets us apart. Not only the fact that we're mobile sets us apart, because there are very, very few people that do that exclusively with their practice around Southern Maine, but we also have a big focus on prevention. That's been a big part of what you and I have worked on, and what we work on with a lot of our folks. People usually come to us with an active problem that they need help with, and we're working with them not only to eliminate that problem, but prevent it from coming back, and then even transitioning to more of a full body prevention programs, where we're working alongside a personal trainer or an exercise class they like to go to, or their own program they're doing on their own. And I like to say we're always keeping that floor high, but you're right. The resilience of that body leads to some confidence, and that's really what we're trying to build with people. And that's what sets us apart a little bit from other folks that also are physical therapists.
Yeah. I mean, during the pandemic, I remember I had been going to the YMCA in Portland, and I used to watch this class that took place in the weight room there. And there was other people, in my age bracket, and I'd be like, I'd really like to do that class, but I'm not sure I could. And then sure enough, during the pandemic, I started going to it, and we started meeting outdoors at 5 a.m. I remember going sometimes in the pitch dark to this park behind the Y, which is right in downtown Portland. And I was right. I mean, I wasn't like the star of the class, but I could keep up. And I was very proud of that. And again, that really boosts your outlook on life, especially as you get later in life, like
Sure.
I am.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you found me.
Yeah. Likewise.
So I also had another shoulder injury at Sugarloaf skiing in January of 2022. So it was good because we were right in this. Wasn't good, but we were right in the swing of things. So you were able to just pivot to treating that shoulder injury. So talk about how PT helps not only prevent injuries but also treat injuries.
Yeah. So our overall approach to treating things is, I hate to use the buzzword of holistic, but what we really look at is not just the area where the pain is, but areas above it and below it. Try to identify imbalances. Now, in that case, when it's a more traumatic injury, we know exactly what's going on.
Right,
We know the things that really need to be worked on. But when there's just general pain there and people aren't sure what's going on, we're able to identify the imbalances, the true root cause of that problem, and then work with them on addressing those imbalances of things that aren't moving well enough and things that need to be more stable. So we work on finding a balance between mobility and stability to really lay a foundation to allow us to build strength and endurance in key muscle groups to, again, eliminate that pain and give them the tools, resources, and accountability to prevent it from coming back. So sort of broad strokes, that's what we're doing every time someone comes to us. But it's never working on, oh, my shoulder hurts, or, oh, I had a dislocation. We're never just working on this area, right? So in your experience, we worked on some things up through the neck. We worked on some things through the core, through the back, around the shoulder blade. We were working on a lot of different things to get that shoulder back where we needed. But yeah, because we already had that relationship established, and because we were already working on some sort of general injury prevention work globally, not just in the knee area that we were originally working on, we were able to make a pivot pretty quickly and start to gain traction pretty quickly because we got going right away.
Yeah. And I do have to say that, and I guess you must do this for all your patients. If I wake up and I have an ache or pain, I text you.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice, and he'll text me back, tell me what I should do, or maybe ice it or elevate it or put some heat on it, or maybe lay off of it for a couple of days. I'm always happy when I get permission to not exercise for a few days. It's like, oh, thank you, Lord. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I don't want to not make you feel special, but it's not just you. We make an effort to do that with all of our clientele. We're, aside from just being there for our portion of their healthcare needs and their wellness needs, we want to build a relationship with people so that they trust us and do ask us those questions. Because one of the biggest hurdles we see to, in my bio, you mentioned the, people not suffering from preventable pain and injury.
Right.
I think the reason why a lot of people do that is they don't have direct access to the people that can best address those types of problems soon enough. And I believe physical therapists in general are very well suited to do that for pain, muscle pain, joint pain, nerve pain. Those are all things that usually can be treated conservatively. The sooner we get to those things, the better. But I always like to say it's never too late or never too soon, right? We shouldn't say, well, there's no way it's going to get better because it's been going on so long now, or, oh, I've only had this for 2 weeks, it should get better on its own. Those are things I encourage people to, or thoughts I encourage people to sort of stay away from. But the sooner we get after it, the better. But again, it's never too late. So just trying to give people more access to answers to like those types of questions.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Is this something I need to address at a higher level, or should I just like do some things to treat the symptoms, let it calm down for a few days and it'll be okay? And just having answers to those questions quickly is part of what we want to offer for people as a value and service when they're.
It gives tremendous peace of mind.
Yeah, no, great. And that's whether people are an active client or whether they're a former client, or even people like, hey, we're going to see you in a week or so, but here's some things you can work on until we get a chance to see you and get a better look at what's going on and how we can help.
Well, we'll be sharing Dr. Phil's email. So if you have an ache or a pain,
by all means, reach out.
That's quite an offer. Value added for the listeners of PR Maven Nation. So you have a podcast, the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. And how many episodes have you done and why did you start it?
Yeah, 126 or 127.
Respectable.
Somewhere in there. So
you're on your way to episode 245.
That's right. Yeah, I got a ways to go, but we're plugging away. So yeah, I started it as just a way to have conversations with people that I was already sort of working and networking with. It actually was a little bit, my initial reason for it was for networking purposes, giving people whose mission that I aligned with kind of a platform for us to have a more long form conversation and get their message out to people. And I just really enjoyed it and have kept up with it. And even when we don't have a guest, I'm doing solo episodes and offering up content about my areas of expertise as well. But really the goal of that podcast is to help people learn different ways to build the mental, emotional, and physical strength that they need to fulfill their true purpose in life. Because I feel that's what I'm doing, is fulfilling my true purpose in life with what we're doing with WorkFitMe Mobile PT, and just want to get other people's stories out there, get resources out there to people that will help them do the same.
Well, we're going to go to a break now, but I do have to give Dr. Phil a pat on the back, because I don't know if you ever took a marketing class in school, but maybe you learned by listening to the PR Maven podcast.
I did. I'm not just saying that. I have.
But yeah, I mean, you have a really good handle on the combination of in real life and online networking and targeting and, making sure that you're connecting in all ways with your targeted audience. So yeah, I hand it to you for that.
Well, and thank you.
So we'll be back with more from Dr. Phil on the PR Maven podcast, which is also available on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So I hope you're listening in on one of those platforms right now. See you in a moment.
Sprague & Curtis is a locally owned real estate company. We're primarily focused in central Maine. I got excited about Nancy's book because she's so well known in the area for her marketing and branding techniques, and we're always looking to expand and learn and grow, and so a lot of us here at the office decided that we wanted to read her book and learn some new techniques.
It benefits Sprague & Curtis to have a large brand and audience because there can often be multiple years between transactions with clients. So it's important to network with them and stay in touch with them in those in-between periods. And this book really helped us learn some techniques and methods to continue to do that. We organized a small book group with Nancy's book with brokers in our office this winter to share information and remind ourselves how important it is to always be working on our network and continually reaching out to our customers.
Platforms like social media are important in expanding your business, but equally as important are handwritten notes, cards, letters. She inspired me to send her a note of appreciation, just thanking her for the book and her insight. In reading Nancy's book, I was excited to look to continue to grow our brand and our audience. I think she does a great job of motivating us.
Nancy's book really helped me learn a few things in marketing and branding and how important it is to stay on top of reaching out to clients periodically, staying top of mind, providing useful information, and really telling our story as a company.
Welcome back to the PR Maven Podcast. I'm here with Dr. Phil Finemore, and you do a lot to promote your business, Dr. Phil. Have you used PR, such as special events and speaking engagements, as well as social media to promote it?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So a lot of networking. I mean, I kind of hustled my way and networked as much as I possibly could early on, used as much of my free time as possible to network. Definitely got some help on that. When I first got started, I hadn't found you or your podcast and your resources here yet. But I'm a part of a mastermind group, a coaching group that helped me get things going. And, we don't take any business classes in PT school. So had to, business or marketing classes in PT school. So kind of had to learn on the fly, but, in-person networking was a big part of it. Obviously a good social media presence. I mean, I didn't grow up with computers my whole life, but came up through like high school and college with social media. So I knew that was an important part of things. So I've used that. And then, in-person stuff, workshops are really big for us, educational workshops, whether we're partnering with a direct primary care doctor in the area or a gym or just hosting a workshop on our own that we're promoting to our clientele and the general public, just to get the word out there, get some education out there about stuff that we help people with. So yeah, it's a good mix. We use the podcast for some promotion as well, obviously. So a good mix of all of that.
I know you have partnerships with Dirigo Fitness and EA Fitness in Falmouth. Right?
Yes. Yeah, those are a couple of folks that we partner with. Perfect Fit Health and Fitness in Scarborough, another great gym that we partner with as well. A few, I'm almost scared to start naming people off because I feel like I'm going to forget somebody. But some great, I mentioned some direct primary care doctors that we work with. Some great chiropractors as well in the area that we collaborate with as well. So yeah, and that's where the networking and sort of relationship building comes into play, of just building some trust with each other, and again, collaborating on some of those speaking engagements and workshops that you just mentioned. It builds trust with each other, and also builds trust with the audience of, hey, these two things in concert with each other are really going to help me from a health and wellness perspective. And our clientele that work with more than just us, that work with some of those gyms, chiropractors, all in concert with each other, usually do better faster.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the word trust, because in business, I always say that people have to first know you, they have to be aware of you, and then they have to like you to want to do business. But mostly they need to be able to trust that, if they're going to exchange money with you, you're going to deliver on your promise. And essentially that's, in my mind, that's the definition of a brand is that you do deliver on your promise, and that people are willing to talk about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
The personal brand, I think, is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's even, well, it's true everywhere, but that's even more true, I think, in healthcare. I could have called my business almost anything. And, I've had logo and branding work done and all that, because you need it as you grow and build a culture and all that. But people come to us for our therapists. They don't come to us because we're WorkFitMe Mobile PT. Our therapists and our therapist reputation have made people aware of WorkFitMe Mobile PT, but they trust us because we deliver the care. So I think even more so in our fields, it's our reputation, the therapist reputation within the practice, that personal branding is our number one form of marketing and PR, because people need to know we're working on their bodies. We're helping their livelihood.
Right.
We're not selling you a car or something that you can kind of go anywhere and get, where we have a direct impact on their life and their ability to provide and enjoy their life. So that's huge.
Yeah. And how did you learn about the targeting? You use LinkedIn and target your ideal customer or client or patient profile. How did you learn how to do that?
So some of that was, I did read your book, because after we met, you did give me your book, and I did read your book. So I've done that.
Good.
Get the book. But on top of that, I mentioned the mastermind group I'm a part of. It's called Uncaged Clinician. Little quick plug for them. They have a podcast as well. It's called the Uncaged Clinician Podcast. Good for business owners in general, but if you're in the healthcare field, great podcast for that. But my coaches in that group really, really helped us figure some of that stuff out. They're business owners themselves. They've started physical therapy clinics that operate similar to ours, and they really helped teach some of those marketing type strategies. Because again, we don't get that in physical therapy school. So that's stuff you kind of find out as you go and get into the world of running a business and running a practice. So
well, that was a really good investment on your part to join that group. And I know you travel to Arizona quite often for that. So
yeah.
I mean, I know that I belong to a similar group that I have belonged to since 1999, and it helps me, see how people run agencies all across the country and learn on an ongoing basis. Plus, you have access to the other members anytime.
Yes.
Like, hey, how do you deal with people who are late in paying, or how do you deal with other problems that come up every day?
All that stuff that's not the physical therapy part.
Right.
We all know how to do that, but never had to run a business before.
Yeah.
So that's very crucial. Very crucial.
Good.
Yeah.
What is a book, an app, or a podcast other than my book that has helped you along the way?
I mean, your book and podcast for sure. I am currently working through the Business of Shared Leadership, which is Kevin Hancock, who I know you've had on the podcast here and talked with as well. Plugging away at that. That's a great one that's really helped me from a leadership perspective. And then this this podcast is a little off the wall, maybe for the general audience, but it's actually at its core a football podcast, but it's called the GM Shuffle. And it talks a lot about the intersect of sports, leadership, and business.
Wow.
So more so in the off season, if you're a football fan, great podcast listen to during the season. But in the off season, they're actually even right now doing a literature and leadership series where they're actually interviewing people who write books on leadership and have companies that help train other companies' leaders and things like that. So
Kevin Hancock should be a guest on that podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a great connection. It's a pretty big podcast, but yes, I think he's got the reach to to get to that. But for sure. But that's one that I've found that surprisingly has taught me a lot about leadership. Within my company, and has really helped my company's culture, and leadership's just a big part of that. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah. So
how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find us anywhere. You can find me personally anywhere on social media. If you search Phil Finemore anywhere on social media, you can find me personally. The website workfitme.com, at workfitme on all social media platforms, and you get a hold of me directly via email as well, and all that contact info is on our website as well. So those are the best ways to get in touch with me if you have questions specifically for me about your aches and pains, or if you don't have aches and pains and want to keep it that way, I'd love to help those folks too.
Well, I will definitely vouch for the treating the aches and pains and preventing more from happening. So awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yes, a lot of fun. Love this. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate this.
My pleasure. And you have had a lot of my clients and contacts on your podcast, which I appreciate as well.
Yeah, of course. No, and I'm always looking for people to talk with. Like I said, selfishly, the podcast is just a way for me to talk to interesting people, because I like, right? Right. I think we're in this for the same reason. We're both, you mentioned being a Taurus. We're both, we are both Tauri, I guess you could say, Tauruses, however you say that. So yeah, anyone that would maybe think that they're a good fit for the podcast, would love to talk to people about that too.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today on the PR Maven podcast. And I hope everybody has a great day in PR Maven Nation.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven Podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the skills and games section to find and enable the PR Maven Podcast Flash Briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.